BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Ray Dalio all at a table together sharing with us where we're going. Man, you better buckle up. It's about to get wild. My name is Coach JV. What I work to do is to make very complex macro and microeconomic strategies very simple so the normal everyday person can activate to transform their family's wealth timeline during the craziest economic times in the world. Our lives are going to be completely different in the next 24 months. But if you buckle down, you pay attention, and when they tell you to look this way, you start looking this way, you could radically transform your family's wealth, health, and spiritual journey. I have two amazing resources for you. We've helped hundreds of people over the past couple months with ensuring their wealth. It's extremely important to protect your principal. They teach you how to insure your life. We teach people how to insure their wealth, have living benefits, and retire tax-free with tax code 7702. In the description of this YouTube video, you'll click to set up a free one-on-one with my team. It costs you nothing to sit with my team, okay? They're my licensed insurance agents. All 50 states. We're expanding to Canada in the next 60 days. So it's in the description video or in my social media platform. Number two resource in the same area, you're going to find a 16-page guide, absolutely free of charge. Put in your email. It'll be there within 15 minutes in your inbox. Check your junk box. It's a 16-page guide on how I financially freed myself in the exact structure that I built to financial freedom. I don't know if it'll work for you, but it's worked for me and thousands of people since 2020 that we've helped. So let's dive into this today. Before we dive into this, I want you to take a deep breath. Remember, there's only three things you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions. In the way that I predict the future, in the way that I do my investments, in the way that I transform my family's life to generational wealth in the future is by studying history. History often repeats itself or often rhymes. Our job is to get out of the repetitive cycles, level up to the new frequency field, access it for a long enough period of time to create the new paradigm. But in order to do that, you have to rewire the foundation to end up in a different situation. So we're going to watch three videos. Okay. Now, this is very important. Think about this for just a moment. These gentlemen are sitting at the table. You got Ray Dalio, you got Larry Fink, and you got Jamie Dimon. Let's let that sink in. Larry Fink, the largest asset manager in the world, Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan. Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon run our country, guys. It's not the president running the country. Okay. Then you got Ray Dalio, who is one of my favorite mentors out there that I've studied his books. What is it? I'm sorry, the debt crisis, the big debt crisis, the changing world order. And that's where I get a lot of my information from. And I went deeper into origin, understanding how this has happened over and over again. So first we're going to hear from Ray Dalio's part of this conference. Then we're going to hear from, I think next I have Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink. So if you don't want to listen to me, listen to what they say. Start writing notes where they're taking us. Well, not where they're taking us, where the economy is going.
Books. In one of your recent books, you talked about 5 forces that are affecting the global economy. So can you succinctly tell us how these forces are going to move the economy forward the next couple of years or so, adversely or positively?
Adversely, I'm a fear, but positively, potentially. Yeah. As a global macro investor for the last 50 years.
You hear what he said? He said negative out of fear, but then at the end, he's pessimistic. So pay attention.
My job has been to bet on what is going to happen globally, macro. And what I learned in my lifetime is that many of the things that surprised me happened because they didn't happen in my lifetime, but they happened many times in history, particularly the 1935, 1930 to 45 period. So these 5 forces have always interacted, and I think everything that we're going to talk about today will be related to those 5 forces, and they interact. And those 5 forces, of course, are the debt, money, interest rate, economy force. The second is the internal order or disorder force.
Okay, so we got high interest rates. We're buried in debt. There is no money in the system. So our parents and grandparents did not experience this type of economy that we're experiencing.
In other words, the internal conflicts that we are having today and the debts that we are having today are the largest since the 1930 to 45 period. And also you go back in history and you've seen enormous amounts of those. They have implications. The third great force, of course, is the international geopolitical force. Two great powers that are rival powers. And then, of course, the fact that there isn't a single world order. There isn't a single world power. It's very different than in 1945 when the New World Order was created, because you have a war, a dominant power comes out, or dominant powers, and they set the rules, and everybody goes by the rules. Well, this is a very different world. And so those three forces, I wanted to examine those over the last 500 years, because to think about rises and declines of reserve currencies, rises and declines of empires, and so on, I needed to get the perspective over that. And I discovered that the other two great big forces were acts of nature, which droughts, floods, and pandemics have killed more people than wars.
Okay, so we have the pandemic. We're going into World War III. We have high interest rates. We're buried in debt. China's economy is struggling. Russia's economy is struggling. We're in internal conflict, and we have world conflict.
And are certainly a dominant force at this time. And then the fifth great force has always been man's inventiveness and technologies. So we have these five forces interacting. So everything that we're going to talk about will be related to each one of those. And I think if we step back and we put that, each one of those in a historic perspective, say, how are their degrees of influence compared to those in history? The largest wealth gaps since the 1930 to 45 period, populism and so on. So those are the five forces. I think if we're looking at them and their evolution, it's like watching a movie play out over and over again if you have that historical perspective. And as we're looking at it, what we're seeing around the world today, as we go into the elections that we're going to see in the United States, which are going to be over irreconcilable differences about wealth and power. And then we look at the geopolitical situation, and then we look at the climate issue. The climate issue is going to cost us, it's estimated, between $5 and $10 trillion a year in a world GDP that produces 100 trillion. So anyway, I think that those five big forces, as we look at, if we look at historical perspectives and analogous periods, I think that that'll help us. I think we have to be concerned about that dynamic that's taking place.
But put it simply, for next year, are you optimistic about the global economy or pessimistic?
Pessimistic.
Okay, so he's pessimistic about the economy. You're going to hear a different tone from, I think it's BlackRock CEO. So now we're going to listen to, let me check here. Now we're going to listen to Jamie Dimon. Okay, so just so you guys know, if you're new to my channel, at the back end of every video, I'm a repetitive person. I repeat the same things because you repeatedly do gets ingrained in your subconscious mind. What gets ingrained in your subconscious mind becomes an unconscious activity. So I'll explain to you exactly what I'm doing. Every single end of it, every video, I'll repeat it over and over and over again. I'll speak from my paradigm. And so maybe you can see yourself in my story and realize it's possible for you. So now we're going to listen to Jamie Dimon. So Ray Dalio says he's pessimistic. We have things happening that we've never experienced in our lifetime. And now we're going to listen to the head of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon.
Most profitable and largest market cap bank in the world, JP Morgan. So are you optimistic about the economy going forward? And are you as obsessed as many people are in the financial world about whether the Fed is going to increase interest rates again or cut interest rates? Does it make that much difference to the economy as you see it?
Yeah, so David, thank you, folks. Thank you for having me here again. And I'll give you the optimistic thing. I think it's wonderful. I've been coming to Saudi Arabia since 2005, and what's changed here is so dramatic and so good. And not just what they've done inside Saudi Arabia, but trying to bring peace to the Middle East. And please, in spite of what happened in Israel, I urge you all to keep up that effort. It is the only way to get there with some leadership from Saudi Arabia for all the folks in the Middle East. And I'm generally an optimist. I think you'd be foolish not to look at some of these things taking place today in Ukraine, Middle East. Obviously, my heart goes out for Ukraine, but also it's affecting oil, food prices, gas prices, migration, potential starvation is probably the most serious thing we faced. And I hear people talking about ESG.
They're telling you the plan, guys. It's all planned out, guys. They're telling you what's going to come. Middle class is getting wiped out. Listen to me, please.
All the time. I just would put on your table the most serious thing facing mankind is nuclear proliferation. If we're not sitting here 100 years from now it will be nuclear proliferation. It's not climate. And so I think when you look at the geopolitical situation, as complex as we've seen, I don't know if it's 1948 or 1938. Obviously, we all hope it goes away. I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking. It's going to take real leadership on the part of many people out there. And then I look at the financial situation, the fiscal spending, which is more than it's ever. I'm talking about the United States, but it's almost true around the world. It's more than it's ever been in peacetime by a long shot, with the highest debt levels we ever had by government. And there's this kind of omnipotent feeling that central banks and governments can manage through all this stuff. I'm cautious. I don't think it makes a piece of difference whether rates go up 25 basis points or more.
So basically, you know, we heard Jerome Powell start to be like, I don't understand why the bond, like, they don't know what's going on anymore, guys. This is uncharted territory. Uncharted territory.
Like zero, none, nada. I think whether the whole curve goes up 100 basis points, I urge people, be prepared for it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I look at what we're seeing today more like the 70s. A lot of spending, a lot of it's going to be wasted. I'm in favor of this whole ESG effort. On the other hand, if you look at the way we're going about it, it's almost like governments want to whack them all and force it, but no carbon taxes, no rational way to go about it. That would be more important. In the United States, for example, you can't build pipelines to reduce coal emissions. You can't get the permits to build solar and wind and things like that. So we better get our act together. I'm hopeful when I listen to all the R&D, see it around the world, we will make the breakthroughs we need to beat climate, but it's going to be a day later and longer than it should be because of our own basic incompetence. I also want to add one last thing. I'm taking this from Bob Gates. To fix this, it's going to take real leadership from the Western world, in particular America, but leadership which is not just military, diplomatic, development finance. And this development finance, I don't know if Ajay's still here, what we need in development finance dwarfs what governments can do. So it can't be done without private capital, and private capital, isn't going to come in if they, you build something that gets taken from a government or something like that. So we have a lot of work to do. It's one of the reasons I think these events are positive, but I would be quite concerned. And the other thing about when you look at economics, I think people prepare for possibilities and probabilities, not calling one course of action, since I've never seen anyone call it. I want to point out that central banks 18 months ago were 100% dead wrong. Okay, so maybe there should be humility about financial forecasting. I would be quite cautious about what might happen next year.
It's been
okay. So he's cautious about what's going to happen. Central banks got it 100% wrong. Okay, so here we are, guys. Here we are in. I'm just going to keep saying it. Uncharted territory. So Ray Dalio is pessimistic. Jamie Dimon, the largest bank in the world, is like, man, get ready. And now here's Larry Fink, the largest asset manager in the world.
still runs the largest asset management firm in the world called BlackRock. Larry, do you see a tidal wave shifting to fixed income investments from equity investments? And do you think that will continue for quite some time? Or do you think that's really not a tidal wave and people are basically still investing in equities as much as they did before?
Well, again, thank you for being here. It's always great to be in the kingdom. As Jamie said, the transformation of the kingdom in the last 7 years is totally heartwarming. And I would also just want to echo, as capitalists, as business leaders, we all have a responsibility to speak a little louder today in a polarizing world. Where we're seeing terrorism, we're watching 2 wars, and here we are trying to talk about, how to make it a better world. That's what this FII is about. And so we also have to then focus on the unpleasant parts of what's denying the world for better growth. So we all have to be better humanitarians, and we all have to be more focused on how to make sure that the political side of the world understands that peace and prosperity does work a lot longer and does shape.
Comment below. What do you guys think about that? He's humanitarians. He's like, they're talking about the political party like it's separate. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's one and the same?
Lift more human beings to middle class and higher standard of living. And conflicts actually create much more global problems for the majority of the world. We are going to see higher interest rates, David. We're going to see higher interest rates for longer. This reminds me of the 70s. I think some of us
Mhm.
were on trading desks in the 70s. Um, and the 70s was all about bad policy. Today, it's about bad policy again.
It's a cycle, guys. It's the same thing over and over again.
And big macro shifts,
Mhm.
as Ray spoke about it. The polarization, the politicization of supply chains, the fragmentation is a big result of it. That is inflationary. Let me also say populism is very inflationary because we respond to the immediacy of the moment. We don't talk about long-term issues. As we see more and more countries move to the far right, we see more threats towards immigration. The lack of immigration is very inflationary, especially in economies like the United States. Talking about legal immigration. And then we've had a government, I'm talking about the US now, that in 2000, we had an $8 trillion deficit.
Let this sink in. Let this sink in, guys. 2000, $8 trillion deficit.
Today we have a $33 trillion deficit. So the deficit's grown by more than $1 trillion each year over the last 23 years.
I mean, let that sink in, guys. Let that sink in where our country is right now. And we're negative debt. We have more debt than money now. That's the difference between 2020 and today.
That is highly inflationary. The balance sheet of the Federal Reserve is highly inflationary. And so all these different measures are much more structural, much more difficult. So as a result of that, interest rates are going to remain higher. Opportunities for investors are going to be able to be very patient. You could do nothing and enjoy a positive return.
All right. So are you expecting a hard landing or a soft landing in the United States, or you just can't project?
We will not see a hard or a soft landing in 2024. The amount of fiscal stimulus that is just entering the economy, which is very inflationary. The CHIPS Act.
He keeps bringing up inflationary, guys. So when they keep raising interest rates and they're trying to cool inflation, and if you see the signal of Jerome Powell going 2024 to 2025 lower interest rates, you're going to see hyperinflation in assets. So if you're an investor, as we are, we're going to see some massive parabolic move on our assets, and then you have to have an exit plan, guys. And I'll explain to you exactly what I'm going to do.
The IRA and the Infrastructure Act, about $970 billion, the largest peacetime non-pandemic moment of fiscal stimulus. At the same time, our central bank is trying to arrest the economy. And so that's just hitting the J curve. And you see in labor settlements right now what's going on, and labor talk, 25% increases in wages.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see a problem, but I do believe the Federal Reserve is going to have to raise rates higher, which probably will mean by 25 we may have a soft, we may have a hard landing. That is the only way I see how we're going to be arresting this, but I don't expect it anytime soon. I think the power of the economy, the power of the consumer that Jamie talked about a lot, is giving me comfort that the economy is fine. Obviously, other parts of the world, Europe.
Okay, so he just keeps going on and on about the same thing. But so the power of the consumer, right? But here's what's happening to the consumer. The consumer's debt is now skyrocketing. Okay. The wages have gone up around 28% in some areas, but rent's gone up 30%. Inflation is through the roof. So you're not making more money. People are actually underwater now. So here's what I think is going to happen. We're going to head into 2024 in a high interest rate environment, right? Then we're going to see a massive parabolic move in assets because they may pull interest rates back, which is going to create asset inflation. But that's also going to create a big hard landing in 2025. And us, all these asset managers, we're going to be pulling profits, okay? So here's what I'm doing. So I have a crypto portfolio that's allocated into fundamental cryptos. Okay, I have some payment rails. I have supply chain. Example is VeChain for supply chain. You got XRP, XLM, which would be payment rails. Infrastructure, Ethereum, QNT would be connectivity. HBAR, I'm doing this off the top of my head. So I'm diversified in different categories, right? Crypto is not my retirement. It's a speculative investment. I have an exit plan on Merlin. Okay, this is Merlin right here. Smartest way to track your crypto. I am the co-founder and one of the creators of Merlin. We created an ecosystem where you can set up an exit plan. Okay. So if you need to go down the description of this video, get your Merlin set up, get your exit plan ready to go. We have FAQs, we have a customer service team, and it's 30 days for free, guys. And you can actually cancel with a click of a button. We're not messing around. This is probably the most important app you will have 2024 to 2025, because you need to exit as things are going parabolic, because you will not catch the top and you'll come sliding, because they're going to pull hard profits from 2024 going into 2025. Okay. When I pull, I secure my wealth into Index Universal Life. Okay. I use IUL, tax code 7702. That's what we teach you guys. It's in the description. You set up a one-on-one. Okay. So that's where I protect my principal. I compound at an average about 7% to be very conservative. I can leverage, I have liquidity. I can leverage and borrow against my cash value, and I get to retire tax-free, and it has legacy wealth as well and living benefits. So my retirement is secure. My crypto profits go into my secure retirement. I'm diversified in business, information technology, and attention. So I'm not sponsored by anybody. Everything I talk about is my own ecosystems that I've created, and we build businesses to help humanity solve problems. Then precious metals. I'm in silver. I'm transitioning to gold in 2024 as a store of value. And each year I'll start to increase my gold reserves and my silver reserves for barterability. I'm heading into real estate next year. I'm just a single family. That's it. And then we're heading into, I'm going vertical. So I'm going into apartment complexes. We're going to do 506Bs with our warriors within our gen shifters, and then build into our warrior academy. And we're going to go vertical. And my number one thing that makes me the richest man in the world is my relationship with God, my foundation, which is peace, freedom, and family structure. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you're still here, you're a true warrior. Comment warrior down below. If this information reaches you well, if you could send this to a friend or family member that hasn't got access to this information. I'm just trying to take it from a logical circuit to show you guys, they're giving you the blueprint. Don't let this one slip away, family. Don't let this one slip away. They're giving you the blueprint. I know everybody's trying to get away, decent guys. You're not going to escape this system. You can't escape the matrix, guys. You create the matrix. Everybody's trying to escape the matrix. You are the matrix. You came from the womb. Study the Bible. The womb is the matrix in the Bible. You are the creator. You are the person who is creating in your mind. Everything you see within your physical reality is a manifestation of what you created as an adult. Okay. You can only control your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions. How you react to the things happening in the world will be the difference maker on whether you become one of the wealthiest people, and I'm talking spiritually, mentally, physically, money-wise, or one of the impoverished people that are complaining about what happened during 2020. Oh, 2023. It's like there's going to be no middle class, guys. I'm here to tell you there'll be no middle class. And I hope that we're on the right side of it, the God side of it, and the wealth side of it, so we can continue to be free as we have always been. Warriors, get your shit together. Let's go. Love you guys.